Welcome to My Parents Lied to Me, the podcast about navigating aging, loss, and all the midlife changes no one warned us about. I'm Nicole Porter, here with real stories and expert advice to help you face what's now and what's next. Welcome to another episode of My Parents Lied to Me, the podcast. I have had so many people tell me stories about life and losing parents and dealing with aging parents, and I just felt My Parents Lied to Me was appropriate to tell all the stories that we all have. So today on my show, I have my friend Shannon Arriola. We met through doing some spiritual community work, but I found out she offers this amazing service, very comparable to your parent Porter, the business that I've started doing home and health check-ins with aging adults. She is a life transition coach. So I'm just going to read her bio here because it's amazing, and I want to make sure that I give her all the credit that she's due. So Shannon Arriola. 17 years ago, Shannon's life changed. While working full-time in healthcare leadership, coaching, and in private consulting, she became a caregiver and a medical POA for two family members who both developed dementia within the same year. Experiencing firsthand the challenges of navigating a family through the transitions of dementia and Alzheimer's disease led Shannon to shift her life's work from hospital-based leadership consulting to navigating life changes for those over the age of 55 with their families. Shannon has delivered community education and organizational trainings on eldercare, the financial impact for working caregivers and their employers, role changes, and caregiver burnout, among many other topics. Shannon's sweet spot is working with families to navigate through the emotional, financial, and physical exhausting experiences and decisions associated with loved ones with terminal diseases. Shannon focuses on incremental transitional changes of this life, shifting diagnoses and finding more quality of life for all involved. From diagnosis to end of life, Shannon believes there's a better way to support all who are impacted. With a background in systems counseling, coaching, and mediation, Shannon and her team assist families through the legal and financial web, as well as helping families come together and heal through this multi-year journey. She holds a graduate degree in family counseling and doctoral studies in systems inquiry and design. Currently, she's involved, I'll just name a few, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's support group facilitator, national conference speaker, eldercare corporate training facilitator, family systems mediator, individual family advocate, 11th hour hospice volunteer, therapy dog handler, founding team member of Maricopa County Family Mediator Association, and she's currently the committee chair for Benavia, a nonprofit in Surprise, Arizona. So, I mean, that is quite the resume, and I just want to thank you, Shannon, for coming and chatting with me. I realized, we had a lot in common. I was explaining to you the whole story of losing both my parents way too early. They were in their 60s. Totally unexpected. Totally wish I would have had more knowledge and wisdom and could have done things a little differently or known a little bit more. And so having conversations with you, you're exactly what the adult children like me need. And can you just tell me a little bit more about how this became such a heart-led journey for you?
Sure.
And go from there.
Oh, I would love to, Nicole, and thank you for the invitation to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really an act of love. I lost both my mom and my aunt, who were sisters, to different forms of dementia. And I, being the oldest daughter in a Spanish Basque family, it was my job as the oldest daughter to navigate care. Both had husbands at the time, but they weren't really very helpful, if you will. And in my culture, it was the adult daughter. Mm-hmm. So I learned very quickly that families needed support in this journey. Mm-hmm. And it was a very long journey. For my mom, she had symptomatic, actually even before diagnosis, mom was symptomatic probably 17 years plus. And my aunt lived with a more aggressive form of dementia, vascular dementia, for about 8 years. And it was a full-time job. Mm-hmm. and I was still working full time. And what I realized was the cost, both in my own health, my own mental health. And I had a brother at the time and a couple of siblings, but my brother, bless his heart, was also navigating the early stage of his own wife with dementia. So this was really a family issue. And what I really realized is that I needed support and help, and couldn't find anyone that could help me navigate through what I was going through emotionally, and then also how to help my parents. And we as adult children aren't always prepared to become that caregiver. And some of us, I'm gonna do a whole piece on the reluctant caregiver. A lot of us don't really want to maybe take care of our parents. Even husbands or wives hadn't really planned on becoming that primary caregiver for their loved one, and life happens.
Right.
So I left corporate America to start this practice of helping families navigate through this.
And is your family close here in Arizona, or were you here in Arizona when this
So
happened?
I was here in Arizona. My aunt was here, so I was taking care of her. But my mom lived in Boise, Idaho, which is where I'm from.
Okay.
My brother lives there. And so I was literally flying back and forth. It was a 2-hour nonstop flight back and forth to Boise a week a month to physically take care of mom and to navigate all that and to work with my brother. And then I was on the phone constantly. And then I was taking care of my aunt here full-time and still working full-time.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how you did that.
I almost didn't. It almost took me down. And when I really, as I said, when I looked for someone that could help navigate, there really wasn't anyone that could understand this from a systems perspective.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known what to do. And moving here from Michigan, lived here 18 years now. That was one of my biggest fears is, getting that phone call, finding out mom and dad are sick or something's happened to them.
Yeah.
I'm the eldest child, the daughter, and single, and I figured it was probably all going to fall back on me to become the caretaker because I'm self-employed. I am,
Single.
What's that?
Single.
And single.
Right.
And single longer.
And your brother had a
My brother had a
wife.
family and
Yeah,
wife.
right.
So yeah, I was worried about their finances too, because my dad worked hard, but he worked for, minimum wage jobs type of thing. My mom quit working way too early. I didn't think that they had prepared for retirement, properly, but we don't have those financial conversations either.
No.
So, that was my biggest fear, and my big why for, becoming self-employed and becoming an entrepreneur was because I'm like, I need the freedom to be able to leave and be there if they need me, and I need to be financially prepared to take care of them as well, because I bet they didn't save enough money. So, that was my big why and my whole reason for doing everything. So when I lost them too soon, it shattered my life. It shattered my why. And it just really got me thinking about what could I have done better?
Sure.
How could we have helped them sooner? What questions should we have asked sooner? I had only asked my family, I was home a week before my dad passed unexpectedly, hey, do we know what to do if something happens to you guys? And we just had this estate planning attorney at my real estate office, and, it seems like there's a lot, probate sounds awful, like all these things, do we know what to do? And my brother, dad wants to be cremated, mom wants a service, my brother knew, all the things, but I had never asked because I didn't want to know. I didn't want to picture life without them. I just kind of put it off. So how often do you see that when you talk to people about these life transitions? Have they had conversations with their adult children, or, is this something that everybody else avoids as well as me?
Right. Typically not. Many times, and it's probably about 50-50. I think the statistics are that more than half, or right about 50% of families aren't prepared legally, haven't prepared their last wishes, their DNRs, their POAs, all of the legalese that needs to be done. About 50% of the families don't. And those that do and have typically don't talk to their kids about any of the arrangements. I've worked with families where the kids haven't even known who the POA was until there was a sentinel event and mom and dad had to go to the hospital, or there was a diagnosis and all of a sudden things had to begin to be put in place, or one of the spouses demised and mom or dad was left but really wasn't capable of taking care of themselves. And then all of a sudden the adult children or the POA they get a phone call and said, hey, your mom has just passed, you need to get here. And adult children don't really know how to step into that. And so that happens, but in most of the cases, families are not prepared for a phone call that says, we've just gotten a diagnosis, or listen, dad's just fallen and broken his hip, I need you here now. And that conversation about where do we go when this happens has never taken place. And so then it becomes reactive instead of proactive. So that's why I do the work that I do, is I work with families to have these conversations ahead of time. And sometimes families don't know how to even start these difficult conversations. My own family didn't talk about it. Alls we knew is they wanted to be cremated, or they didn't, or they wanted to be buried, they wanted a service, they didn't. But there's so much more that needs to be talked about in terms of what I affectionately call the last half of life. And it really isn't about the end of life, it's that whole journey towards the end of life. Like, I'm your parents' age when you lost them. This is something that we need to talk about to our kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We made it a joke. We thought, hey, Mom, you know what? If things get bad, you're going into a home. Hey, Mom, you know what? When you die, we're pulling up a dumpster. That was the big joke. And it's made my mom spin out, but that was the only way, that was the only conversations we had. We were hoping, hey, if you don't want people to go through your shit, then you better do it yourself, or start taking care of yourself so we don't have to put you in a home, like that. I think that was our underlying motive. But, I wish we would have had those other conversations. I feel a little blessed that things went down the way they did with my family. We didn't have to make those decisions. And I hear so many stories now that, oh, my parents had this and they were declining for years, and all the caretakers and all the things. I feel very fortunate that, my brother and I got along, that it happened quickly, unexpectedly, and they had most everything in order. That my brother and I got along and were able to just handle everything very easily. I know that is not the circumstances for everybody else. And, that's another reason I have created Your Parent Porter, because I want more kids my age, more of the adult kids have to have these conversations. As I was cleaning out my mom's house, because she was a collector, I was posting videos and telling stories, and, it was my way of healing and grieving by sharing all my mom's shit and everything she saved for us. But I had a lot of my friends come to me and go, oh my gosh, we haven't talked to our parents. I'm going to have to deal with this with my mom too. How are you doing it? Or I'd have my friends' parents come to me and go, oh my God, thank you for sharing that. We're not going to do that to our kids. So I think just my experience and my sharing my stories has sparked conversations within other families.
But sometimes that can open up family conflict. And families don't want to deal with the conflict, which is why they often avoid the conversation in the first place. So that's why having those conversations in a very informal, Mom and Dad, can we just talk about what your wishes are? How do you want to live out your third and fourth quarter, Mom? We never know when we're going to
I like
demise.
the third and fourth quarter talk, because I just turned 46 and I'm like, I'm getting to second half.
Exactly,
The average age right now is average age of death is 72.
Well,
isn't it?
It's changing.
Is it going up?
Well,
or going down?
It's changing a lot. Men tend to demise earlier than women, but only by about 5 years. But in my personal experience in dealing with people who are navigating through neurodegenerative diseases like stroke, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of those statistics, they're hard to navigate.
Okay.
Because the disease is different for everyone. I've had clients that I've lost within a few years. My mom lived with dementia symptoms for 17, 18 years. It's different for everyone.
Right.
But my point being is that you can't wait until
Right.
you're worried about it to have those conversations.
Right.
So I would strongly recommend, Nicole, for the kind of work that you want to do, and for anyone out there that's thinking or wants to know about how to talk to their parents, start with your own peer group. Invite your friends over and ask them, have you guys talked to your parents yet about how they want to live out their life? What expectations your parents have of how you kids are going to show up, and have a really honest conversation among your own peer group of, do you really want to take care of your mom and dad?
Right.
And if you don't, you need to navigate that
Right.
conversation ahead of time with your family.
Right.
But I will tell you the biggest heartache that I see with families that I work with is not necessarily the conversation, but in the absence of that conversation, how much pain and disruption to the family system it causes when things start to unravel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, I saw more with my aunt, because I was with her all the time, than her 3 daughters did, who all lived out of state. They would have a conversation, 5-minute conversation with their mom on the phone, and didn't see all of the
Right.
symptoms that I saw.
Right.
So when I started talking to them about, hey, listen, we really need to start talking about what your mom is going to need when I can no longer be that.
Right.
They were going, Mom's fine. Mom's going to live forever. I think you're over-exaggerating, Shannon. You're in healthcare. You know, you're probably over-exaggerating.
Right.
So it really caused some disruption
Right.
between the daughters of my aunt and myself.
Right.
And so that was why I went into doing what I do, is to help families navigate that earlier.
Right.
So I work as a family coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes families haven't talked to one another in years. The parents and the children are very estranged. And so how do you even begin healing those wounds? Well, you start with a third person that can be a neutral for that.
Absolutely. And that's part of your parent porter for me as
yeah.
well, is, you know, I'm just trying to help. I want to be a resource. I want to observe, report, and recommend to the families some proactive solutions that they can be taking in the home. You know, maybe we catch some of mom and dad's activities in the home. They're using the wall to balance. They're not getting around as easily. There's a lot of clutter in the home, you know, so that's why I want your parent porter to be a proactive service, focusing on the home and then the overall well-being and health of the aging adult.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't think it should wait till they're seniors or need to go into some kind of transitional help. You know, maybe I don't want it to be a diagnosis. I would like to be a resource and capture some of those things sooner, have conversations sooner, and have resources like yourself and other people, you know, hey, this is the early stages. You would be the perfect person
Right.
to introduce them to in those situations and be a great partner for me. I don't want it to be like, now I've got to get the assisted living transition specialist. Like, now you're just shit out of luck and you got to go on to the next thing. You know, like, how do we take a more proactive approach
Sure.
and, you know, hopefully slow down the disease, or, you know, help heal the mind, help heal the body, help, you know, make their home more safe, you know. So I just feel like there's more proactive things we can do for our aging parents as a aging adult.
Most people want to stay in their own homes as long as possible, and you have a great opportunity, Nicole, to impact that in a very amazing way. But this is a typical situation. So a child who may or may not live in the vicinity will get a call and say, your mom has fallen, she's broken a hip, and she's in the hospital. So mom can't really live by herself anymore and is going to be discharged from the hospital within a very specific amount of time. And kids have to scramble
Right.
to find some place for mom to live. Not that mom wants to go there. You don't have time to look at the best care facilities.
Right.
You have literally hours to decide what you're going to do next for a situation that you don't even fully understand. It's one of the most heartbreaking examples of how our society doesn't talk about this enough.
So what do those kids do? I mean, I have another friend that's here locally, and something similar happened. You know, her dad had a stroke and they got him stable, and then basically said, you have to get him out of here in the next couple hours.
Yeah.
And she's like, we didn't know what to do.
Right.
And she's like, they gave us a piece of paper and said, here's a few resources. Like, how do the out-of-state kids, like, how do they find other resources other than this list that the hospital provided them? Like, is it up to you and I to go into these healthcare facilities and try to get on that list? Or, like, how do we make ourselves more available to families, you know, to try to be a resource and referral partner in those situations?
I think you have to do what we're doing right now. You know, talk to your own peer group, start there, so that they have time to begin to explore what's really needed, and you can help them do that. I can help them do that when it comes to figuring out if a parent is cognitively impaired or physically impaired, how are we going to develop a game plan? How are we going to develop a life map that may or may not be perfect by design, but at least it's a template? So encouraging people to have the conversation early. I have many clients that will call and say, listen, everything is really good right now, but I know I'm going to get that phone call. What are the kinds of things that I need to be able to ask mom and dad so I can go have that conversation with them?
Yeah, that's great. And learning, I've been going to a lot of these senior meetups and going to different 55 and older, assisted, independent living, all the different things. And the price points in these places are crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, that was my big concern, you know, about my parents' finances. You know, at the end of the day, you know, my brother and I got our split or whatever. And I'm very grateful for it. But at the end of the day, I was like, there's no way this would have taken care of them if they got sick.
You know, right here in the Phoenix area for 24/7 in-home care will run you about $1,000 a day.
That's so crazy.
And to put someone into, let's say, assisted living, depending upon where you live, can range anywhere from $6,000 to up to $12,000 or $13,000 a month.
And that's for assisted living. That's for them getting help.
Correct.
What about some of these independent places? I mean, I think those are
independent living.
They're like luxury resorts.
Indeed, and those are right at
places.
You know, $5,000 to $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
And oftentimes there's a huge buy-in. So this is another thing too, that kids don't realize that there may not be anything left, because mom and dad are going to have to quickly be taken care of or placed somewhere.
Right.
And they don't realize just how expensive it is.
Right.
I've had family say, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to bring mom and dad home, and they can live with us." Well, you know, that can break up a family, a marriage, pretty darn quickly. And what they realize is that that's not going to work either. It doesn't work for their parents. They don't want to live with their kids any more than we wanted our kids to live with us after a certain, you know. So we have to have those family conversations. And I'll even take it to an extreme. Some kids want to take care of their parents because they want to maximize their inheritance. And I'll just be very honest with you. And there's no judgment about that, but it's not a really good game plan, because taking care of your parents in your own home is a very difficult thing to do.
Right.
And so you need to think about those things proactively. It isn't so simple as to say, we'll just move mom and dad in with us and take care of them until they pass.
Right.
It's a lot of work.
Right. And
that's a lot of work.
And I see that in real estate. I hear a lot of stories in the real estate world of, you know, kids fire selling the house because they're just trying to get the money. Sure. They're moving them too quickly.
You bet.
And I think that's part of my value is I can offer them a lot of different solutions rather than the first reaction.
Yeah.
And, you know, having those conversations with them to make the best decision for the family, for themselves, because like I said, I didn't want to be the caretaker. We told mom she's going into a home, like that was not my goal, but we still needed to have conversations about like what would happen and, what would happen to the house, where's the money coming from, who's going to be in charge, like all the things.
Sure.
So we can keep going on and on forever.
Absolutely.
But we're running out of time for our show today. Shannon doesn't have a website because she's got so much referral business.
Well, no, I want to talk a little bit about that. I only take on so many clients at a time.
Absolutely.
So I can be fully present for them.
Well,
I have a concierge model, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do service.
Absolutely.
I'm a hospitality background and I love concierge services, and I like people to cater to me and my needs. So I'm definitely going to share your information in the show notes, make some referrals. Obviously we have some great partnerships now and have some other referral partners that, we're both just going to be so busy that
it's good work. It's the best work I've ever done.
I know. It's heart-led work.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what attracted to me to like speak to you more is, we're both very spiritual and heart-led and living out our purpose and our passion.
Exactly.
At this point in our life and second half of life.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. And I'm going to read my outro because, I'm still brand new to the podcast game. So, I just had to write it down. Thanks for spending time with me today on My Parents Lied to Me. If this episode stirred up any memories or maybe some questions, know you're not alone. Navigating life with aging parents, especially from a distance, can be messy, emotional, and honestly a bit surreal. This podcast is a space to unpack that journey with honesty, with heart, and without shame. Whether your parents sugarcoated aging, dodged tough conversations, or just didn't prepare you for what caregiving really looks like, we're here for it. If you found value in today's story, please share this episode with someone walking a similar path. Subscribe, leave a review, or drop me a line. I'd love to hear your story. And remember, the truth about aging might be inconvenient, but facing it head on, that's where the healing and the planning begins. Until next time, take care of them and take care of you. Thanks for listening to My Parents Lied to Me, where we face the realities of aging, family change, and midlife reinvention with a little grit and a lot of heart. If today's conversation helped you feel less alone, I would love for you to like it, share it with a friend, and hit follow so you don't miss the next story or tip that might help you navigate what's next. Because even if our parents didn't tell us everything, we're figuring it out one chapter at a time.